Attention humans, recently we saw SN10 take off and land somewhat successfully. I'm going to count not blowing up on instant contact with the ground as success. However, there is no Starship test that doesn't have a boom, so SN10 blew up. Because SN10 decided to go kaboom, its brother SN11 will take off soon. Anyway, in today's video we will launch a space shuttle to Pluto, and we are going to use SN11 to do it. However, instead of using Super Heavy, we will use the big orange tank and 2 SRBs to get this into orbit. Now I know Pilot just recently posted a video about a similar thing when I was working on this video. So anyway, let's get into it. Our first launch will put SN11 into orbit. Now, I know this craft looks pretty weird, but trust me, it was very hard to keep everything balanced. Anyway, after the engines have throttled to full power, I tell the launch clamps to let go, and the rocket slams into something on the launch tower. I hope the thing I slammed into wasn't important. As we go through some cringy camera shots, we can get a better look at this craft. As you can see, I placed 2 Raptor engines on the orange fuel tank. These 2 engines are very important because they maintain stability when the solid rocket boosters get detached. Well damn, those engines look awesome. It is a little sad these engines aren't supported by real plumes. As we climb higher and higher, I can tell that the solid rocket boosters are running out of juice, so I yeet them into the ocean. Then I check on the Raptor engines and check to see if they are okay. I give them each a cookie and tell them to remember Raptor engine 42 and keep going. However, the orange tank is running out of juice. I tell the Raptor engines to shut up so they stop burning. Then I detach the orange fuel tank and give the Raptor engines another round of cookies so we can get to orbit. Anyway, it takes us another 3 minutes to reach orbit. Now that's a pretty big hop, if I do say so myself. For our second launch, we will take the space shuttle and a crew of 4 Kerbals to dock with SN11. In order to begin launch, I begin to release the sparks because they are the worst basketball team. I ignite the engines and tell the space shuttle it's go time, so it leaps off the ground. To be honest, I spend most of my time looking at those dope plumes. I love the Real Plumes mod. Also, that space shuttle looks sick. Now, don't get mad, I could have easily built the space shuttle with all stock parts, but this modded shuttle looks 1000 times better. As we rise higher and higher through the atmosphere, I begin to roll the craft so I can begin my gravity turn. Then I tell the solid rocket boosters to go away because I need some alone time with the shuttle, if you know what I mean. At this point I'm already in space and I'm halfway to orbit. As I raise my orbit higher and higher, I admire those dope plumes. You already know Morx loves his dope plumes. I'm surprised this hasn't broken my computer yet. Finally, I reach orbit after 4 minutes of burning. I tell the orange tank to go away, and I quickly reposition for an encounter with SN11. Damn, those Kerbals have no idea that this mission will take 10 years in Kerbal time to complete. This docking will be a little awkward because I have to dock at a very specific angle. So I called up MechJeb to do it for me. 2 minutes later I reach SN11. The shuttle does a small turn and begins its approach. Once both of them are close enough, I slap the 2 spacecraft together so they stick. You guys are probably a little confused about how SN11 will bring the space shuttle into the orbit of Pluto. Well, let's just say this, the shuttle will ride SN11 like there is no tomorrow. Before we get into the next launch, I have a message from our homie Safety Doggo. Now before you skip ahead, I would like you to stay through this part, because the YouTube gods won't like me if you leave. Safety Doggo wants all of you to like and subscribe, so he can protect your room tonight. Safety Doggo also wants you to join our Discord server. The link will be in the description. Anyway, back to the video. Now that all of my viewers are gone, we can get to the juicy parts of the video. Because I had to empty half of Starship's fuel just to get off the pad, I need to refuel Starship in orbit with a traditional launch. Anyway, the launch starts off pretty smoothly as Super Heavy roars to life. I then remember that SAS is a thing, so I turn that on, so the flaming end of the rocket is pointing down. I admire the reflective texture of Starship as it rises higher and higher into the atmosphere. Then I tell Super Heavy that it is big and fat, so it separates from Starship and starts heading home. Don't bully people, kids. However, you can roast your boosters all you want. I'm going to be honest, landing Super Heavy at the KSC is the easiest landing I have ever done. The reason why it is so easy is because Super Heavy has added more size and mass, so aerodynamics are much easier to deal with. Also the margins are a lot bigger, so there is no need for a suicide burn. As we approach the landing zone, I noticed our speed is a little too high, which causes Super Heavy to do its best representation of SN10. It starts tipping over and blows up anyway. Now I feel bad I roasted it earlier. Back to Starship. As you can see, this Starship in particular isn't SN11, but it is a tanker Starship and I need a vehicle with a heat shield, so I can reuse it. 7 minutes after booster separation, I finished my orbital insertion burn. This burn put me in a slightly lower orbit than the SN11. 5 Kerbal hours later, and I have finally reached the space shuttle. In order to refuel SN11, I will dock the two ends of each Starship just like the cinematic SpaceX released not too long ago. I took my time with the docking, since the two spacecraft will only dock in a specific orientation. I have no idea why Starships are so picky. Once I have finished refueling SN11, I'll undock the tanker and begin my deorbit burn. I'm going to skip to this dope re-entry because I'm sure you guys think it's too boring. Anyway, I'm not sure you all have tried controlling Starship. I'm just gonna let you know that this was very hard to do. The controls are very sensitive and patience is key, since it takes forever to reach the ground. This footage is sped up by 8 times, and in reality this re-entry actually took 10 minutes to complete. As always, I will play a beat drop for this landing. Cheers to another successful beat drop. Anyway, after landing the Starship from orbit, I begin my escape burn to Pluto. In order to keep the craft stable, I will burn the RS-25 and Raptor engines at the same time. To be honest, I think this is the most iconic duo. I mean, look at this craft. It looks like something from Cyberpunk 2077. Anyway, this journey to Pluto will take 4 years, so I made sure to give these Kerbals a big supply of Morks videos. 4 years worth of Morks videos later, I finally reach Pluto. I tell the engines to wake up, and they immediately start burning. This burn took 4 minutes, which is a pretty long capture burn. Once my capture burn was complete, I detach SN11 from the shuttle. Did I mention SN11 will land on Pluto to refuel? I didn't. Okay, well, SN11 is gonna land on Pluto, and I guess, technically, SN11 did a massive hop from Kerbin to Pluto. The landing was pretty smooth, and unlike SN10, the legs fully deployed, and I didn't land very hard. What a beautiful sight it is to see Starship so far out of the solar system. Now don't click off the video yet. We still have 4 Kerbals to return home. Since the shuttle is completely reliant on a piggyback ride from SN11, I will refuel Starship and meet back up with the shuttle in orbit. As you can see, our ascent was pretty clean. However, MechJet screwed up a little, so I had to use a little bit of extra juice to fix the mistake. The gravity is so low on Pluto that this small maneuver won't cost us 50 years. After reaching the space shuttle, I switch crafts and reposition the shuttle for docking. I will use the shuttle to dock because its RCS system is much better than SN11's. Sorry EELOO, it's the truth. After a clean docking by yours truly, I begin my escape burn, which took 1 minute because of the low gravity of Pluto and how overpowered the vector engines are. Anyway, 3.5 years later, Kerbin is within viewing distance. The Kerbals don't seem to care because they are still watching my videos. I tell them to pay attention because we will use the rest of our juice to slow down enough so the atmosphere doesn't incinerate us. We are going to be traveling at 5,000 meters per second through the atmosphere, and any reduction of that speed is a priority. As the shuttle hits the atmosphere, the heat rises so high that it surpasses that of my mixtape. Despite the intensity of the atmosphere during our first re-entry, it won't be enough to take us out of orbit, so I coast around Kerbin for a second pass. The second re-entry was pretty intense, but not as bad as the first. 2 minutes later, the shuttle reaches some lower speeds. That's when I realized that I should have paid attention to where I was landing. Currently I'm on a collision course for those mountains, so I start a small turn aiming for the plains on the left. After barely missing the peaks of the mountains, I descend further towards the flat ground. In order to preserve the aerodynamics of the shuttle, I will deploy the landing gear at the last moment. Unfortunately, the shuttle is a very bad glider, so controlling it is a little hard. The landing gear deploys successfully as I'm pitching the shuttle up to slow our descent. Currently I'm traveling at the speed a passenger jet takes off at, so this touchdown was a little intense. I rolled on the rough grassy ground for over 1.5 kilometers until the shuttle came to a stop. That's when I remembered the shuttle had a parachute it deploys to slow down on the runway. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to brush your teeth, wash your hands, and subscribe. Morks out.